Hello everyone. Let's start at 6:35 until two more people join. Good evening everyone. My name is Uday. I hope I'm both audible and visible to you. If I am, please comment or show me a thumbs up. Give me a minute. I'll just share my screen.
Thank you.
So is the screen visible to all of you? Hello. Am I audible to all of you? So hello everyone and welcome to NLTI's 2 month track lab session. My name is Uday and I will be taking this session for all of you today. So before we start, I'll just show a little bit about how we're going to go about the structure of the whole thing. Init
So I want to.
The delay, for some reason, Zoom is crashing every time I try to share my screen. So please give me a minute. So yes, starting over, welcome everyone to NLTI's 2-month strategy for CLAT. And my name is Uday, and I will be taking you all through this session today. So before we go into the session, I will be talking a little bit about the session structure. Initially, we'll be covering a few little tips and tricks to ensure to be followed in these two. So yes, we will be covering a few general tips and tricks that we followed during the months of October and November. And apart from that, mocks are the most important thing that you should be doing in these 2 months. We will also talk about how many mocks you should do, how to analyze them, etc. And also that, apart from that, we will be going into a section-wise analysis of what to focus on for each section and how to enhance your preparation better. At the end of the session, I will be taking specific questions from all of you with respect to the same. So, moving on. Yes. So in general, you guys should know that accuracy is key to cracking CLAT, especially after the pattern has been changed this year, where the number of questions have been reduced from 150 to 120. You guys will be getting more than a minute for every question because GK section is something I'm assuming everybody won't be reading the passages. You'll just go for the questions that you know and you'll mark them. So in a way, you will be getting more than 1 minute per question. So unlike the previous years where it was about attempting, 125, 130, 140 questions and getting around 80-90% of them right, the focus here will be accuracy, attempting preferably getting a good 110 plus attempt and accuracy above maybe over 90-92. So yes, moving on to and a lot of people who are giving CLAT right now will probably be in 12th. So a common question that arises is how should we balance 12th over CLAT? By now, you guys should be knowing that, see, boards are at least 5 to 6 months away. You'll be having them, I think, in the month of February, March, April. So boards are something that can be done even after CLAT. So in this, considering the CLAT is only 2 months away, I strongly suggest that you prioritize CLAT over 12th completely over these 2 months because CLAT is something that would, in a way, decide what happens after 12th for the next 5 years. Prioritizing weaker sections is also something you guys should look at because because you can't go into the exam hall with the mindset that there is a certain section I'm weak at. I hope this section comes easy because when you go with a mindset that you have a weaker section or you're not very good at a particular section compared to the others, you're already at a disadvantage compared to the others. So in a way, you should be spending more time with the sections that you're consistently not scoring well at, which I'm thinking is usually English or LR or something like legal, the reading sections. So yes, give more time to the sections that you are not consistently performing well at, and ensure that you bring them up to scratch. Mocks and subsequent analysis. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough how important mocks are during this time period. And not only mocks, it is also important that you guys analyze them properly, because giving mocks is only half the battle. And if you ask me, it's less than half the battle. The more important thing is what you are learning from the mocks and how you are getting better with each mock. That is something, again, we'll cover in today's session. So we'll keep that for the later part of the discussion. Another thing is, yes, take breaks. See, CLAT is something that can be extremely stressful, and it can give you a high amount of tension and, this fear of not performing well. So added with the pressure of class 12, that makes it even more pressurous. So in that sense, it is important that you guys give time to yourselves. It is important that you take breaks. I would say that at least 15 minutes a day should be spent in pursuing activities that you enjoy. It could be listening to music, playing music, going for walks, maybe some physical activity, or speaking to friends and family. So in that sense, I'm not in that sense, you should take breaks, but keep the duration of the breaks limited. It's not like, okay, you're taking break half the time and for a break, you're studying. So that should not be the case. So moving on. Yes, mock strategy. So as I've said before, mocks are the single most important things that you must be doing in this last 2 months. And the barest minimum that you guys must be doing should be doing is at least 3 to 4 mocks per week. Because as the time keeps going on, it is important that you guys create a good strategy for CLAT, create a good strategy that you have in mind, and identify what your weak points are and work on them. So for that, it is imperative that you give at least at this stage 3 to 4 mocks every week. And with every passing week, every passing fortnight, preferably week, the number of mocks that you give should be scaled up. So at least by the the third week of October, you guys should be giving at least 1 mock a day. That's 7 mocks a day. 7 mocks a week. So can all of y'all please mute your mics? I will be taking questions later on. So yes, in that sense, I would suggest all of you to, if you're giving 3 to 4 mocks per week, that's good. If you're giving more than that, that's good for you. And yes, if you're giving less than 3 to 4 mocks per week, I would strongly suggest to scale up your preparation with respect to mocks. And not only mocks, the most important part of a mock is to analyze it later on. So it's not worth it if you just give a mock for 2 hours, calculate your score and throw it away and move on to doing whatever you're doing before or after that mock. So a key, if you're giving 2 hours for a mock preparation, if you're giving 2 hours for a mock, it is important that you spend at least 1.5 hour analyzing how it went. And of course, analysis is something we will be touching upon lightly later on in the session. But in analysis, you guys broadly should be focusing on the sequence that you attempted, that is the chronological order of sections you attempted. Find out whether it worked, find out if there are any chinks in that particular sequence, if there is any way where you can make the sequence better. You can use these mocks to mix and match to see what strategy works out for you. The next is time management. So after the pattern has been reduced, one good thing is that it has been, what I keep saying is CLAT has become easier after the pattern change from 150 to 120. CLAT has become easier to attempt, but harder to crack. So in that sense, it's important that you guys are managing your time efficiently between sections and not running away with one question. Like, okay, if you're supposed to give, say, 1 minute per question, you run away with the question or run away with a section. Do not waste time in that sense. And if you are wasting time, analysis is the best way to find out what is going wrong. And yes, of course, identifying and rectifying mistakes. So mistakes, nobody can have 100% accuracy. And even on the exam day, you will make mistakes. That's, nobody can attempt 110 questions and get all of them right. What is important is that you minimize the number of mistakes you make and ensure that the mistakes you are making is not is not a question that you could have gotten right. Like, okay, I missed reading this particular line and that's why I marked this question, which turned out to be the wrong answer. Or if I if I wanted to mark the right answer, but then ended up marking it incorrectly in the OMR. So that's something you guys should avoid. And diversifying mock sources. So yes, while you should ideally be solving 3 to 4 mocks per week, it is also important that you solve mocks from diverse sources, such as there are so do not solve mocks from only one particular place or from one particular source, because each source of mock, each company that makes mocks has different sections, has different varieties of questions, has different styles of questions. And because CLAT being a very unpredictable paper, it is important that you guys are used to everything. So in that sense, yes, diversify your mock sources. So now we move on to into the section-wise strategy, what we should be focusing on in the months of October and November. So firstly, we'll be going with the English and LR section. Now, the English and LR section is more or less overlinked, and together these two sections, you can at least expect around 40 to 45 questions, 45 to 45 questions. So what CLAT has been doing in even last year and the past year question papers is that it's been moving away from the traditional source of, okay, newspaper, opinion editorials, and articles from the newspaper. You're getting mocks, you're getting questions and passages from very diverse sources, such as books on fiction, you're getting on abstract topics, you're getting on economy, current affairs. So in a way, there's a lot of hello, everyone. I'm sorry for what happened. Zoom's being very uncooperative today. Give me a minute. Yeah. So is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it
Okay,
is.
okay, fine. So yes, English. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, now.
Zoom is being very, very uncooperative today. I'm sorry for that. Can the host give me sharing privileges? I can't really share my screen right now. Just message the host and I'll continue without the slide. It's fine, wait. I'm the host, great. So Yes, moving on. Uh, English and LR. So, yes, as I was saying, CLAT has been diversifying its sources with respect to where the passages are coming from. So, you're getting questions that range from philosophy to current affairs to fiction books, non-fiction books, and all. So, in this sense, it is very important that you diversify the sources of practicing English and LR. It's not that while newspapers should be your primary source, you should be accustomed to reading sources that are not editorials or not current affairs articles. I've had people tell me about how, they find it difficult to read articles from philosophy, uh, articles from maybe which are very abstract articles, non-fiction articles, articles that are not current affairs. So in that sense, it is important that you guys prepare for these eventualities that you might face in CLAT by reading more of such articles, getting familiarized with such articles. Because if the similar article which you're not currently comfortable with comes in the exam, you cannot go around saying like, okay, I can't read this article, it's too difficult for me, right? So diversify your sources of where you're practicing English and CR from. And by now, your concepts should be clear with respect to main arguments, with respect to assumptions, inferences, uh, the structure of a passage. Such concepts should be clear to your mind. And right now, in these 2 months, it's all about application of these concepts and ironing out those chinks in the English and LR section. With respect to vocabulary, vocabulary is something that you should be consistently doing. You could be reading books from the newspaper. Newspaper is an excellent source for vocabulary. You could refer to the newspapers. You could also refer to this site called vocabulary.com, which is, in my opinion, is a fun way to learn English vocabulary. So yes, that. And sectionals and mocks in English and LR should be your main sources, because right now, as I said, your concept should be clear. And with respect to practice, your best sources are from sectionals and mocks. So right now, as I said, it's all about application. Yes, moving on to general knowledge. General knowledge is the most unpredictable section CLAT. So I don't mean to scare you guys, but if you guys have seen the 2023 CLAT question paper, you guys will know what a nightmare it was for students who attempted it there, barring maybe one or two sets. So that's not something that should scare you. In fact, the general knowledge section is what can, in a way, make or break your CLAT performance. So with respect to GK, it is important that you guys begin to revise whatever you've done in GK so far, because I'm sure your mentors must have told you about how you should be thorough with 1 year worth of whatever 1 year preceding the CLAT date, whatever GK comes within 1 year preceding the CLAT date. So in that sense, now is the correct time to begin revision of old GK, especially from the months of Jan to September. So that revision can include whatever questions you've encountered in old mocks. It could be from notes if you've made any notes. If you made any notes, that's very good. And also, yes, the GK booster booklet. I'm not selling the GK booster booklet or anything, but personally, I've used it when I was preparing for CLAT last year, and I found it a good way, an amazing way to revise whatever important topics that took place in the months of Jan to September, October, and even November. So yes, revision is key. But while you're doing revision, you should not neglect the newspaper, because all said and done, September and November and December, not December, September and November are still months where the consortium can pick questions from, and you should not be unprepared for those. So to summarize, keep up with what is going on in the world with respect to with the help of newspapers, and revise what has already gone on, whatever important things have already gone on with the help of the your notes, your GK booster booklet, or your old mocks if you've solved any. And one more thing is, it is important that you try to complete all the material that you're using for GK before going into the exam hall. See, because when you go in, at least one reading of all that material, because when you go into the exam hall, you should not go with a mindset like oh God, I didn't finish this particular material. I didn't finish so and so material. What if similar questions come in the exam? What if that particular question comes in the exam? You should not have any fear in your mind about material that you haven't completed, or material that could have been completed but you didn't because of XYZ reasons. That could actually be detrimental to your performance in CLAT, because it will create a sort of tension in your mind with respect to GK section. And God forbid, if you get such questions in the GK section, it might even ruin your entire paper. So it is important that you complete your material before going into the exam hall. And the next point, both of these points are interrelated. Do not diversify your sources too much. I have seen people who keep 7, 8 sources for GK and just read them superficially and go to the exam hall. That's frankly, see, because GK is something that's endless. GK is vast and it is endless. So how much ever you do GK, you can never actually finish it. You can never actually complete a. Hello, everyone. Am I audible to you all? Audible and visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Also, with respect to the pace, is everything fine? Like, do you guys want me to slow down or something? Or is it okay?
Sir, it is very good.
Thank you. Give me a minute. Yeah. So for general knowledge, it is important that, see, I've seen people who are like, they have 7, 8 sources and they're still looking for more sources. So instead of that, it is important that you guys keep 2 to 3 decent sources, 2 to 3 good sources, and revise them and finish them thoroughly. Because when you have 7, 8 sources, 5, 6 sources to study, it is impossible to complete the entire thing. It is legit impossible to complete the entire thing. And when you go into the exam hall with such a mindset, like oh God, I haven't finished this source, I haven't finished so and so source, you will keep this sort of pressure, self-imposed pressure in your mind, because you'll feel that you're not adequately prepared for that section. You can never be prepared enough for GK, but there'll always be a difference between a person who has just relied on 2 to 3 good sources and revised them thoroughly, and an other person who has done 7, 8 sources very, very superficially. That's something I feel you all should keep in mind. So in that sense, do not diversify sources too much, and limit your sources to 2 or 3 good and reliable sources. And yes, this point, I don't think I've highlighted enough. I'm sorry. Yeah, the second point must be done daily. GK is something that cannot be done at the 11th hour. So if you guys have been doing GK consistently until now, that's good. Keep it up. And if you guys haven't, then I'd strongly suggest to make GK a part of your routine, because again, there will always be a difference between a person who has just done GK for 1 month before CLAT and a person who has been doing GK now, and or a person who's been doing GK consistently. So yes, consistency for GK is key. Moving on to legal reasoning. So yes, legal reasoning has the highest amount of weightage as per the number of questions, along with GK, legal reasoning and GK. So right now, you guys should probably be done with all your concepts, torts, law of contracts and stuff, the basics. So do not focus on concepts right now, because CLAT, again, similar to English and LR, has been moving away from giving, those cliche and oft repeated topics such as tort law, strict and absolute liability, essentials of a contract and all. You're getting stuff as advanced as citizenship. So in that sense, do not focus on learning contracts. If you've done contracts, learn law of torts, that's good. Whatever you've done, that's good. But right now it is important. The third point, that is to train your mind for unfamiliar passages, is key. I had a similar problem when I was preparing back for CLAT then. I used to find difficulty with unfamiliar passages, such as maybe any passage that was not law of torts, any passage that was not contract law, basically any passage that I hadn't read before or I wasn't familiar with before in the earlier stages of my CLAT prep. So in a way, the only way that you can prepare your mind for legal reasoning is to train it with unfamiliar passages. So in that sense, the only thing you can do is keep solving mocks. Again, from diverse sources of mocks, from different mocks, whatever mock you can get. Based on that variety, you guys should be having at least a good idea of how to deal with unfamiliar passages. So yes, practice on legal reasoning. And yes, any mocks that have RC-based legal reasoning, such as, okay, what did the author say about, say, citizenship in this particular paragraph? Do not focus on those, because legal reasoning is all about application of the concepts. The consortium wants to test you on how well you can apply the given law in that particular paragraph to a fact situation. They do not want to test how well you can memorize the entire paragraph or how well you can structure the paragraph. Structuring the paragraph, there's a separate section for that in English and LR. In legal reasoning, it's all about reading the passage, understanding the concepts, understanding the law that is given in the passage, and applying it in the fact situation. So yes, with respect to legal reasoning, focus on application and focus on focus on reading unfamiliar passages. So, guys, please give me a minute. My battery is extremely low. I'll just get my charger. I'm sorry for the delay. Wait.
Please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So, as I was saying, legal reasoning is all about how well you can read the law and how well you can apply it in the given passage. So, in that sense, focus on unfamiliar passages and focus on how well you're able to apply. For that, mocks and sectional tests are your best bet. So, that is for legal reasoning. Moving on to QT. So quantitative techniques, traditionally in the old pattern, we had around 3 sets of quant, and owing to the new pattern, you guys will probably be getting 2 sets of quant. So that's 10 questions. And I concede that quantitative techniques does have lesser weightage compared to the others because it's only 10 questions, around 10 questions, 5 to 10 questions. But that does not mean you can neglect quant, because quant in many cases is what can make or break your CLAT performance. It can make the difference between, say, NLS Bangalore and, say, Nalsar, or Nalsar and NUJS Kolkata. So in that, because see, the question paper, let's take a hypothetical situation where you guys get an easy question paper where everything is relatively easy. So everybody would perform well in the all the reading sections, and quantitative, and everybody will score reasonably well, which means cutoffs will go extremely high. So the person who gets a couple of marks more than others in a section like quant will actually be able to perform better and get a better rank compared to the other person, compared to their peers. Similar goes for a sort of mixed question paper where you get, say, for example, GK is very difficult. If you guys are if you guys get a difficult GK section, the person who gets a couple of marks, it applies everywhere. A person who gets a couple of marks more in quant will have a significant advantage in ranks compared to the other person. So by now, you guys again should be done with the concepts. If you are not done with concepts, please focus on completing the concepts as soon as possible. And again, practice as many questions as possible from mocks and past year question papers. So mocks and past year question papers are again good for QT. And there is a set syllabus for quantitative techniques as well, not abstract like legal reasoning. So focus on completing those concepts and focus on speed, because speed is what helps you solve is what helps you in the exam at the end. It's not just solving the questions. It will not be helpful for you if you take 13 minutes or say 20 minutes to solve those 10 marks. You'll be losing out on other sections. So yes, focus on speed and focus on accuracy. If you guys are done with the concepts, if you're perfect with the concepts, focus on application and speed. If you're not done with that, please complete the concepts as soon as possible. So that's it for quantitative techniques. Now we get to the main object of this session. What should be different for this session when compared to what should be different for these 2 months when compared to the previous months? So what should be different between, say, September and October? What should be the difference in your preparation between September and October? And what should be the difference between October and November? So firstly, it is more mocks. I cannot emphasize this enough. The more mocks you solve, the better you are prepared for any eventuality in CLAT, the better your strategy would be, and the better experienced would be. So give as many mocks as possible and keep scaling up the number of mocks you give. The more you give, the better. And more than analyzing mocks, more than giving mocks, you guys should be analyzing mocks. And again, that's something I've highlighted even initially. We will get to that. Now, something new that comes up here is revision, because in the previous months, all you guys would probably have been doing is give mocks, just attend, if you're going for any classes, attend some classes, learning the concepts, doing GK, etc. But now you're at this fork in time where you have 2 months of preparation left for CLAT. And in this time, it is important that you focus on revision of GK, revision of particularly GK, revision of concepts in QT, revision of other concepts if you're not perfect, revision of other concepts in maybe English, LR, and logic. You guys should be perfect with those by now, but it's okay. It's not, everybody doesn't start at the same line. Nobody starts at the same starting line. So yes, revision is something you guys should be prioritizing this month, these 2 months. And yes, the fourth point, there's a reason I put a question mark there. See, old pattern mock, when I talk about old pattern, I talk about what was there between 2020 and 2023, where you had 150 questions each, 150 questions. So this piece of advice would apply only to people who are consistently scoring well in the 120 mark question paper, who are scoring, when I say consistently, I'll say 100, 105 plus. You guys can also solve certain old pattern mocks where there are 150 questions, because in my opinion, the old pattern, this is universal again, but the old pattern mocks will obviously be harder compared to the new pattern ones, because you will be here you'll have to solve 120 questions in 120 minutes, and there you'll have 150 questions in 120 minutes. So the amount of time you can devote to every question will be much lower. So it's a good way to prepare your mind. It's a good way. You're setting a higher standard of preparation for yourself. Do this only if, again, a huge caveat, do this only if you are consistently getting good scores in the current pattern mocks. That is the 120 question paper mocks. So yes. Mock analysis. So as I said, analysis is very, very important, is a very, very important part of giving mocks. And in my opinion, it is more important than giving the mock itself, because there's no point if you just give mocks and it goes into oblivion. So while analyzing your mock, you should firstly be checking out your rank and percentile if that is accessible to you, because all said and done, CLAT is a competitive exam. It's not like, you guys will be, it's not like your boards where it just depends on how you perform. So the rank and percentile is a workable, it's the only workable solution to know where you stand compared to your peers. The next thing is sectional scores. Now, some people are just happy with their total scores and be like, okay, I got, say, 95 in this mock and I'm happy with it. But they may not be noticing that they might have gotten 95, because they performed extremely well in some sections, say maybe LR where they got like 33 out of 35, and scored very low in some other sections, such as maybe GK or QT, not GK, but probably QT or another reasonably low weighted section like LR maybe. So in that sense, the sectional scores give you a perspective on what your weaker sections are. And as I said at the beginning of the session, these 2 months, it's sorry. And these 2 months, it's important to work on your weaker sections. So yes, calculate your sectional scores, and moreover, do a sectional analysis. Check out what was your score in each section, which passage got you more marks, which passage did you lose out marks on. And in my opinion, you should go into deeper depth even in that. You should be doing a question by question analysis as to the reasoning you applied in that question, especially in the questions that you went wrong in, the mistakes. Now, there are always two kinds of mistakes. You've got silly mistakes, which should be avoided at all costs, should really, really be avoided at all costs. And the other mistakes could be conceptual mistakes. For example, you didn't know how to apply the particular concept, or you were unaware as to what the question was asking. You were, say, doubtful as to what could be the answer. In that case, it's a conceptual issue. So in that way, you can check out the reason, you can go over the solution, check out the reasoning, talk to a couple of peers, talk to your mentors at NLTI, and get that sorted. So silly mistakes, avoid at all costs again. So again, missed questions. Now, there are two kinds of questions you can miss out on. One type is where you were unaware of the answer, or you were unable to, you narrowed it down from 4 options to 2 options, but you were unable to decide between 2 options. In that, again, that would be a conceptual issue. So that's when you check out the reasoning, talk to peers, talk to your mentors, etc. But another sort of question you miss is when when you say you didn't have time, or you felt the time was insufficient, or you felt that you devoted too much time to in most cases, that is because you would have devoted too much time to a particular question, to a particular section, because of which the other questions are being missed out on. Do not make this mistake. Do not miss questions simply because you did not have time. See, after the reduction in the number of questions from 150 to 120, you will have more than a minute per question. In that sense, if you're missing out questions because you did not have time, that means you are spending a lot of time in certain sections, which should strictly be avoided. Do not miss questions because you did not have time for it. And also calculate what your potential score is versus your actual score is. So your actual score is what you get in the exam. Your potential score would be your actual score plus the questions that you lost because of silly mistakes and the questions that you missed because you did not have time. In that, I'll just repeat it again. Your potential score should be your actual score plus the silly mistakes plus the amount of questions you missed because you did not have time. In that sense, it is because this potential score is what your actual score should be. But because of these reasons, it has been coming down. If it's a question that you missed because you did not know, or a question that you got wrong because you did not know, that's different again. That wouldn't count towards your potential score. Your potential score should be the standard at which you aim. Ideally, it should be the highest possible marks. But then again, for every mark, your potential score is what you could have scored in that particular section with good time management and with avoidance of silly mistakes. So yes, that's all about analysis. Now, if I'll open the floor to doubts, if any of you all have any. So please feel free to unmute. And if you want, you can switch on your cameras too while speaking, just so that we can have a more interactive discussion. No pressure, obviously.
Sir, how can we reach towards our potential score?
How can we reach to our potential score? So see, as I said, your potential score is the actual score that, okay, I don't have a pen, so never mind. I don't see now your potential score is the score that you could have reached if you had not performed silly mistakes in the exam, and your you didn't miss out on questions because of time management. So for that, the first thing you should do is manage your time better. Ensure that you go through each and every question, you're able to understand each and every question, and you're able to at least attempt to answer the question. I'm not saying attempt every question, but at least ensure that you read the question and you're leaving it. And if you're leaving it, you're only leaving it because you feel that this question is not doable, or this question requires a sort of concept which I am not completely familiar with. In that sense, you also make silly mistakes. So avoid silly mistakes at all costs. It could be as simple as you read synonym as antonym, or you missed the not. For example, if you get a question, which of the following is not a suitable answer? You miss the not, or you imagine the not being there. Those sort of mistakes should be avoided. So if you want to reach your potential score, avoid silly mistakes and manage your time better. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, it has.
Sir,
Okay, any more?
sir, I have started my preparation really late. So basically, till this point of time, I have covered the reasoning section. Basically, I am scoring 60 with the reasoning only. Currently, I have not even started with GK and quants. So what should be my approach?
Okay, can you repeat the part about reasoning? You're saying you're scoring 60 in reasoning, 60.
Yeah.
So reasoning as in English and LR combined, English and logical reasoning combined.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With respect to GK, see, have you done any GK previously, if I may ask?
I have done the newspaper consistently.
Oh,
But
good. If you've made any notes on the newspaper, revise that. If you have, again, you can also find compendiums online, GK compendiums online. So I wouldn't, at this stage, you may not need to go for any IAS compendiums, I think, because those are extremely vast and those are done only when at the last resort. So in this sense, because you're telling me you've done newspapers decently, I would suggest keep up the newspapers. Do not neglect the newspapers. For revision of GK, you can ask maybe a friend if they made notes, or you can also refer to the GK Booster Series booklet, which NLTI I think has recently launched. I personally used it when I was studying for CLAT 2023, and it was a good way to revise GK and also cover the important concepts that took place in the preceding months, that is from Jan to June. So with respect to that, I think the GK Boosters is a good choice. And also you can refer to any friend's notes, as I said. With respect to maths, you said, okay, so have you done concepts in maths, Alpesh?
Basically, sir, after 10th, my maths was eliminated from my life. And this will be a very long time after which I will be beginning it. So
it's okay. Even I left maths after 10th. I'm a humanities student after 10th. So for maths, if you go for any coaching and if you've got recorded lectures, use those recorded lectures. Other than that, you can also check out any good sources on YouTube with respect to conceptual clarity. And for YouTube videos with respect to conceptual clarity. And usually from my previous experience, what I know and heard is that CLAT tests you in quantitative aptitudes based on topics until 9th to 10th class. So there are some very, very fundamental concepts such as profit and loss, averages, the sums, or basic sums, and means. Then okay, I can't really recall concepts right now, but so yes, with respect to concepts, you can cover them with some good YouTube lectures. Those should be sufficient for concepts, and also practice the concepts that you are covering. So I hope that answers your question. Do you?
yes, sir. One last
follow?
question.
Sure.
Basically, which mock sources we should emphasis on?
You mean generally, like for mocks, or for any particular section?
Like countdown mock or like that.
CL's countdown mock. See, I'm not really sure with I'm not in touch with CL career launcher, so I don't know how their mocks are right now. But back when I was preparing for CLAT, the general trend was that legal edge mocks have the hardest legal reasoning sections, and career launcher mocks have the hardest logical reasoning sections. This is when I was preparing for CLAT. I do not know if it's the same right now. And NLTI's was more all round because because one thing is NLTI creates its mocks. The students create NLTI's mock. The students studying at NLS Bangalore. So unlike other companies which outsource their mocks and to other companies, so in that sense, NLTI's mocks would be a well-rounded source. And if you want good logical practice, based on my previous year experience, I might be wrong again because I haven't been looking at CL or LE mocks after CLAT. So CL, LE mocks again should be a good source. And also check out there's this one LPT in they also have a decent mock source for they also have a decent mock source they have a relatively well-rounded mock which caters to all sections of CLAT. It's not completely for one section. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, anybody else?
Sir, if you said we need to focus on the weaker sections right now, right? So if
Yeah.
GK is my weaker section and I'm unable to score well in it, how do you think I need to improve?
With respect to GK, see, the only thing I would suggest right now is to revise your concepts. So conceptual concept, what am I saying? So with respect to GK, it is important that you revise the GK of the preceding month, that is from Jan to September. Again, the source is up to you. Revise from your sources. Have you been doing the previous sources?
Yes.
Okay, so focus on revision. And which mocks have you been particularly scoring low in? Like, which mocks do you use?
I'm taking coaching at CL and another coaching too. So I've been doing both their mocks and I've scored relatively well in English and logic. Legal was average. And I've been scoring very low in GK and Quant.
With GK and Quant. So with respect, see, when I was back doing CL mocks, a lot of their GK questions would be from their particular GK compendiums called Manthans. Have you been doing them?
Yes.
Okay, so as long as you're doing the Manthans, I do not think GK should be. What sources do you use for GK?
I read the Manthan from CL and we have the monthly of Vision IAS. So I read them.
So Vision IAS is something I would consider slightly debatable because all said and done, this is an exam for undergraduates and the level of GK that you need to do for IAS is at completely different level. So yes, Manthans are a good source for GK. Apart from that, are you reading the newspapers?
No, actually, I've been reading the news. I read the newspaper in the beginning months, but it was taking me a long time, like 2.5 hours a day or something like that. So I couldn't spend that much time. So I stopped reading them.
See, 2.5 hours is a bit long for a newspaper. I would say that, but at the same time, newspaper is a CLAT aspirant's holy book. Whichever holy book you wish, that's up to you. You imagine it as up to you, but newspaper is something I would suggest you not to neglect at all. If you're spending 2.5 hours on the newspaper, it probably could mean that you are reading a lot of unwanted material. So if such as maybe the city pages, we can take a session on this later. Okay, so how much time do we have? Okay, you know what? Let me do a small session on. Do you read everything in the newspaper?
Yes.
See, the newspaper has a lot of information. You should be able to glean what information you can read and which information you can skip. So let me just take a small example for you all where I'll open a newspaper and I'll just show you what a sample of what you need to read and what you can skip. So give me a minute. Oh, okay. Thank you, Varnika. You sent me the Hindu. Okay. Okay, so this might take time. Until then, I'll keep this question on hold for now. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
I actually have a question.
Okay. Was that Aditya?
Yes, sir, right.
Okay, since I'll take your question next, Mahi, if that's okay, because you've already spoken once. I'll take it next. Aditya, any questions?
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask if the sample questions released by the consortium are actually related to the original CLAT paper. Do they
Yes.
help in?
Please
Mhm.
finish.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so back when I was preparing for CLAT, the consortium also released two sample papers, two or three sample sets, and the first one was a full length mock, and the difficulty level compared to the actual CLAT was not at all representative, because the sample paper was completely easy. It was really easy. I literally finished the I was aware I my average mock scores at that time was something like in 70s or 80s, and in that mock I scored like 119 out of 150. So in that sense, at least what I attempted back then, the consortium sample papers were very easy compared to the actual CLAT. So because the intent is, at least what I think is the intent of this consortium by giving you those sample papers, is to ensure whether you're familiar with the concepts that the consortium tests you on in the CLAT exam. It's not, because while giving the actual CLAT exam, the consortium also has to take in measures to make the competition more dicier for students, in a way to reduce the competition. In that sense, they will throw in a sort. In that sense, the level of difficulty that you will expect that you will get in the actual CLAT, will be of a much higher level compared to what you get in the sample paper. So if you're scoring good in the sample papers, do not take it as representative of your actual performance in CLAT. You can take it as a proof that your concepts are good, your concepts are clear, and it's just a sort of motivation where you can build the rest of your preparation on. So yes, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Actually, one more, sir, please.
Okay.
I also wanted to ask if prior knowledge is required for the legal section in CLAT, because
No, no, no. See,
we have
please
seen
finish.
that we have seen mentors telling that prior knowledge isn't required at all for the legal section. Whatever you have to refer is from the passage and then apply it for the questions later on. But I have analyzed the past 4 years question papers, previous year question papers of CLAT, and realized that actual some part is uh, beyond the passage, like where you have to be aware of certain factors or principles which are not mentioned in the passage to give the right answer.
I think you're speaking to the 2021 question. You're speaking about the 2021 question paper, right? That Arnab Goswami set and stuff. I think that was the
The
slightly
the
dicier of the
journalism,
set.
the journalism question.
Okay, I don't remember that one. I mean, based on what you're telling me, it reminds me of the Arnab Goswami set in 2021. So yes, you will, if CLAT has strictly notified that prior knowledge will not be required. And if you look at the 2023 question paper as well, nothing was given beyond the passage, and nothing that came beyond the passage. So in that sense, it is important that you it is important that you at least are aware of how to read the passage. Regarding legal awareness, if you're given an actual question that is tests you based on prior legal knowledge, CLAT will not do that, because again, I'll tell you this, everybody has different starting lines. While a person may be more prepared with respect to certain legal topics, another person may not. So it is very unlikely that you will get such questions, and your mentors are absolutely right in telling you to focus on the concepts, because again, it asks you the name of the question, the name of the topic is legal reasoning, not legal awareness. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'll just take again. Okay, wait, give me a minute. I'll just do the question paper thing right now. The newspaper.
Okay, sir.
So I hope the screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. So yes, give me a minute. I'm just going to take a couple of examples here. So, okay, I'll read the headline. Topic in recent times, and the rise in LPG prices has also been highlighted. So this is something I would read. Again, gross, wait, give me a minute. Yeah, gross GST revenue growth slows to 10.2% in September. Again, this economics related news is something I would cover. AFSPA in Assam. So I'm sure you guys must have been reading the newspapers, and AFSPA and Manipur is something that's been hotly being that is hotly being contested. So any development with respect to this must be kept in mind. So again, okay, this is the Hindu paper. So obviously you will be getting a lot. The headlines will cover the absolutely important topics, but you might get some topics like, okay, wait, let me point it better. You will be getting some stuff like this, which deals with politics and deals with something very local state level news. Because CLAT is a national exam, you guys need not worry about that. You can just skip it completely. And so moving on. Again, any city related news, the state related news. This is the Hyderabad version. I currently live in Hyderabad. So all this can be skipped. The editorial, again, it's good. The editorials will help you in all the 3 reading sections. So focus on those. Then editorials as well as opinions. Again, a sort of political opinions like, okay, diminishing returns, a factor in AIA DMK is diverse from BJP. It's something you can read if you're interested in politics, if you're interested in, state level politics and stuff. But that's not something I would focus on if I was preparing for CLAT. Again, have household savings reduced, largest climate action lawsuit. Now, this is again something related to the law. So this is something you can read it. And yes, this is something you should pay attention on. Any legal developments, all of them take precedence. Again, pages like this, text and content. I don't usually read the Hindu, so I'm unfamiliar with what each page talks about. Again, India-US relation now on a different plane. So this is a comment that is very, very innocuous. That is very, very it's a very immaterial comment. It's just a comment on what the current state is. So unless you find something that is of material within the passage, within the newspaper article, it is very suggestible that you skip it. Such as initiatives of the, so this line, initiatives of the whatever India and US have been doing for the rest of the international community. So in that sense, do not read everything that's there in the newspaper. You should be selective with what you're reading. And over 9.2 lakh sites host cleanliness drive, PM appeals for Swachhata. So, okay, what is this cleanliness? I haven't read this article. What is this cleanliness? Is it something that is done annually, or is it something that's done specially? If it's something that's okay, happens every month, you don't really need to cover it, because if it's something that happens very often, you don't need to cover it. You can just skip it or just quickly skim through the article in a couple of minutes. So yes, Ajay Makan appointed new treasurer of Congress. Political news, you don't need to read it at all. Hello, Zoom crashed again. Yes, such stuff can be skipped again. Is the screen visible? Okay. Launch was critical for Chandrayaan-3 success. Again, this interview it's an interview, and if you find anything, you don't need to read and analyze the entire interview. If you find something material in the interview, something that gives you clarity on concepts, on certain GK concepts, something that gives you an idea about certain concepts related to GK, or it enhances your understanding, then it is worth reading it. But again, an interview, so yes. Afghanistan embassy in Delhi shuts down, cites lack of support. This is something which should be kept in mind, but again, it's something it's not the most important topic in the newspaper. Again, not something you completely neglect. Tamil Nadu senior most DGP takes VRS. Ignore. Just read the headline and ignore. Urging medical colleges to face monetary penalty. Ignore. Something about the National Medical Commission. Okay, in the sub headline. If you just skim through, just quickly look at the entire passage. If you find something important, maybe an important person or some important topic or an important organization, focus on that. But otherwise, you can skip this. No copyright claim on public service videos. Okay, copyright is something important. Maybe while the news article itself might not be completely relevant to CLAT prep, it is something, copyright is something you should be generally familiar with. It's something that comes under general awareness. So yes, DGCA may bar pilots, may operative, leave it. Shortage of TB drugs in the country. Okay, this seems like a hot topic. So shortage of tuberculosis drugs, you will read this. In my opinion, you should read this. Suicide bomber detonates a device in the Turkish capital. That's unfortunate. That's bad. But again, it's in Turkey and it's nothing connected to India. So skip it. A rally in Warsaw against Poland's conservative government. A local protest in Poland's taking place. If it boils up, becomes something like, say, the Kazakhstan protest that took place, I think in 2021 or 2022, we look into that. Indonesia set to launch China-funded high-speed rail first in Southeast Asia. So if something is something like ASEAN you're covering ASEAN, you can just include this as maybe a one-liner, just the headline. So Bangladesh bars ailing Khalida Zia from healthcare treatment abroad. Again, a one-liner. If it's very subjective. So yeah, you can completely ignore this page. Sport. Yes, Asian Games is a very hot topic. So please read everything that comes under it, especially when India wins. Yes, all this related to Asian Games. And okay, something related to local cricket. Irani Cup 2023. It's still happening now. So after the winners are announced, you can focus on the person who scored the most number of runs, who took the most number of wickets, who won, who was the runner-up, who was the champion, where did it take place, etc. What was India's standing and all. Bury the ghosts of 2019. Skip. Teams deal with warm-up. Skip. Preparations good. So this is some interview with Shadab. Is that a Pakistani? Yeah, that's a Pakistani cricket player. Skip. Netherlands, Ryan Cook. Skip. Yash Bharwani chosen as Nehru Hockey's president. So what is Nehru Hockey? The Nehru Hockey Society seems like a sort of private society for the betterment of, it seems like a very private society. So if I was that, if I were you, I would probably do a quick Google check of what it is. If it's something that's related to the government, something, if it's a very big organization that is handled by the government, I would cover that. So yes, Adriel, Lonas, Kerala Blasters, CV, ISL 10, football. So football is important. Maybe again after the tournament ends, who won, who was the runner-up, etc. Again, you can skip this, skip this. Carmen line. This is an important topic again, something like Carmen line where space begins. Again, space, a very developing field in general knowledge as well as law. So that's something I would cover if it was there in the newspaper. So this is just a broad overview of what you should pay attention to while reading the newspaper and just a quick structure of the newspaper. I hope this was helpful for all of you. Okay. Okay, please give me a minute. I got some questions on private. I'll take your question the next. Is that Mr. Roma?
Sir, Mahi.
Okay, Mahi, sure, yeah. Please tell me.
Sir, I am scoring presently in reading sections 55 and in maths 5, in GK also 5. So my
Okay,
total
okay. Could you repeat that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right.
Reading sections it is 55. In maths it is 5, and in GK also it is 5 to 10, but 5.
Okay.
So what should my day look like, because I want to get into NLS? Obviously everybody wants. So what should I do in my day? So and
So you're saying you're scoring 55 in reasoning and 5 each in quant and GK.
yes,
So overall, that's a score of around, that's a tentative score around 70. So see, firstly, guys, see, I know coming from me, it may not sound good saying this, but I strongly suggest you not to keep any sort of fixed. It's good to have an ambition to get into NLS. It's good to have a sort of feeling and a sort of hunger to get into NLS. That's there, but do not base everything that you do in CLAT simply because you want to get into NLS. Because all said and done, it does not take only a hard work to get into it, hard work, smart work. It does not take only effort to get into NLS. NLS also requires, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm sure every student at NLS, every person who's given CLAT would agree with this, that NLS not only requires effort, it also takes at least 10% to 15% luck for particularly NLS. So if I was telling this to someone else as well, if you go with a sort of mindset into the exam hall ki I need to get into NLS, I need to get into this particular college, which obviously would be very high, you will be creating a sort of mental pressure in yourself to perform as to the level that you think is expected for getting into such a particular institute. That would be counterintuitive to your paper, and in fact reduce your chance of getting into NLS. So it may sound funny, but it's like the more you want to get into NLS, at the end, the lesser your chances will be. So in a sense, you just have a mindset that you need to perform to the best of your ability, not, not perform NLS level or NLS students level. That's personally, I think that's something that would actually harm your preparation. And with respect to the whatever you've told me, I do the sections. I do think your requires a lot of improvement. So I do hope that the whatever I've said during the course and whatever during the session with respect to how you should cover GK would help. And with respect to reading sections, what is the reading section out of? Like you said 55, right? Out of, is it like out of 70?
no, sir, out of 80.
Out of 80, my bad. Yeah. So 55 out of 80 is, I would say it's decent. It's decent, but again, there's no perfect score in reading except 80 out of 80. So one thing that is really visible is GK, which you said has a score of 5. So again, focus on revision of concepts, focus on the newspaper as I've shown you here. I hope that was useful for you. Covering the newspaper, covering the revision revising whatever you've learned for GK from the months of Jan to September. If you want, get the GK booster booklet. Personally, I think that's a good source. That's what even I use for CLAT 2023 preparation to prepare for CLAT 2023. And with respect to quant, I don't think 5 is a bad score in quant. It's 5 out of 10 is a pretty good score. So whatever you're doing in quant, just keep it up. And reading 5 out of 80 is also decent. Again, focus, but in GK has a lot of scope for improvement. So for GK, revision and continuity with respect to mocks is what I would what I would suggest to you. I hope that answers your question.
Sir, actually, I was asking that what should I do on daily basis? Like you should give this amount of sectional test. You should initially start with giving some mocks or searching some most important topics.
See, that I understand what you're saying. See, that is something which you should
थोड़ा सा
decide. See, at this
पका ही
point,
देना
everybody has a different level of grasping power, different level of understanding power. What you may understand in 1 or 2 readings is what I may take 5 or 6 readings to understand. So in that sense, what you should use in these particular times is mix and match to see what works out for you. You're asking about how to get better, what you should do daily, right? For GK and reasoning. There is no strict specific number of readings that you should do, but with respect to GK, newspaper and daily revision of old concepts, I'll keep stressing that, and I cannot stress it enough. GK and for newspapers and revision of old concepts. With respect to the other sections, as I said, keep giving mocks and analyzing them. You can give as many mocks as you wish to, which you think you're capable of. Just make sure that they're within, that you're capable of giving them, and you don't burn yourself out before the exam. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir, it has.
I'm going to keep oral questions on hold for a couple of minutes because I have questions in the chat box. How to gain full accuracy in legal reasonings? I can complete on time, but get questions wrong. So if you're completing questions on time, so why are you making these mistakes, Nirank? Are you there in the meeting? Nirank? Okay, he's not there. I'm going to keep this question for the end then. Ananya, how to maintain focus for 2 hours straight while giving a mock, especially when reaching the last sections? Mock fatigue. This is a very common issue that many. Ananya, are you there? Ananya. Okay. So, see, with respect to mock fatigue, that's something that's there, very common. It's very common among students, although maybe at this stage it's a bit concerning, but that's okay. I don't think it's a pressing issue right now. So basically you're getting tired while you reach the last couple of sections, I'm presuming. So in that sense, what I would suggest, this is something, how many mocks do you give per week or per day, Ananya? 2 to 3 mocks per week. That's decent. So what I would say, this may sound counterintuitive, but it is something that you will build over time. Basically, I think, I don't mean this in any offensive way, but I think your attention span is lesser with respect to mocks is lesser than 2 hours. So that I had a similar issue when I began with CLAT prep. And what my mentor had once suggested to me was, in order to train your mind to be at its prime for 2 hours, you can give a mock and immediately after the mock, give a sectional test. So in that sense, basically, like if you're running a 100-meter race, you will prepare for a 1-kilometer one. This is what my mentor used to suggest for me. It is not, I mean, that didn't really work out for me. What eventually happened to me was that as I increased the frequency of mocks and as the exam came closer, I was naturally able to build the ability to just sit for 2 hours and give the mock. And I'm sure that's something that even you can do within that time. That should not be a problem, in my opinion. But regarding, yes, increase the scale of the number of mocks that you're giving. You're giving 2 or 3 now, increase it every week, increase it every 4-5 days. So that should be helpful. If that still does not help, please reach out to your mentors or please reach out to me as well. Okay. Then Sharanya, are you there? Sai Sharanya?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you think I can improve accuracy in reading sections? So see, the first part about you found out that your accuracy is bad. Okay. Find out why it is going wrong. Is it because you're making silly mistakes, or is it just because of a question that you did not understand? You did not understand the question or did not understand the answer. So in that sense, the first step to treating an issue is to identifying what the problem is. If you're making silly mistakes, then that's just that you've got to do that based on that's something that you have to set right yourself. You have to be more attentive while giving the paper. You have to maybe spend 3-4 seconds more before answering the question. Wait for a couple of seconds. That's something that you should fix by yourself. But if it's conceptual, then that means if it is not a silly mistake, that means you're unsure of what the answer could be, which means your concepts aren't clear. So then you can go over make a list of what mistakes you're making in the mock. For example, you made a silly mistake. Take a piece of paper or a book and write down the name of the mock, the mistake that you made, not the question number specifically, but okay, say made 4 silly mistakes and lost XYZ marks. If it's a conceptual understanding, or if it's a sort of doubt that made you make that question wrong, seek a clarification from that question. You can read the solution. You can check out solutions. You can ask your peers. You can ask your mentors, and write down what they say. If they say that if they give you a solution, write down the solution. And before giving another mock, just read whatever you've written again. And that way, by the time you go for CLAT, you should have at least a couple of pages of notes ready as to what are the sort of mistakes you're making in that mock. And when you read them, you'll remember not to make them. This is what I would suggest. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Arya, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many times should we revise our current affairs compendiums in these last 2 months? So see, again, as a similar answer was giving to, I think, Mahi, it all depends on what your grasping power is. See, if you're a person who can remember everything just by one reading, that should be sufficient for you. But if you're a person who requires 4 or 5 times to understand it, to remember it, or familiarize yourself with it, then you'll have to do that the requisite number of times. But at the same time, when I say revise, you shouldn't remember everything that's there in the compendium. You should read it in such a way, see, because all said and done, you don't have to write answers. You'll be given options and you'll have to pick the correct option. So read it in a way wherein you will be able to identify what the correct option is. You know where that situation is where you're unable to remember the name, but you look at the options and you can see what option it is. So again, as I said, it depends on how good your grasping power is. If you feel that you'll be able to remember it, as I would say, as many times as possible, because GK again is unpredictable. The more you revise, the better prepared you'll be. So as I said, find out what works for you. If you're unsure, just read it as many times as possible, because you can't take chances with GK. You can't go into the exam hall, find a question, remember that it was there in your compendium, but you didn't revise it but you don't know the answer because you didn't revise it enough number of times. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
On Vanshika, which sources should we refer to read CR and RC passages to get idea of different type of passages? So I would so let me just type out a list of sources which you can, instead of typing out, I'll just recite them to you all. Just make a note of those if you guys want to. For psychology kind of passages, you can refer to this site called Aeon, AEON. That has very, very dense passages. So be wary of using this source. Aeon is a decent source for such passages. For respect to for stuff like psychology, you can go on Psychology Today, psychologytoday.com. I'm not sure of the URL, but the website is called Psychology Today. And with respect to non-fiction, you can read current affairs, you have your newspapers. For specifically, if you're having issues with articles related to economy and stuff like that, you can maybe refer to Economic Times or another one called, I forgot its name, Money Control or the Mint, MINT. So those are what I would suggest for Mint, for these, for the general family, the usual sources for CR and RC. If you have any specific sources like for this particular kind of passage, please put that on DMs or speak it. Okay, everyone's DMing right now. Okay. Payal, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have given 30 marks, but my marks are in average 40s. What to do? So, as I said in this session, it is very important that you focus on analysis of the mark. Find out what see, if you're getting 40 out of 120, that means your concepts aren't clear. It's a clear case of concepts. So please go back and finish the concepts, main argument, assumptions, inferences, structure, uh, with respect to legal reasoning, maybe those basic tort law concepts and stuff. Because at this point, your concepts should be clear. Your concepts should have been clear, but it's fine because everybody starts at a different starting line. So go back and revise those concepts. And when you're done with those and after you've given every marks, you've given 30 marks, yes, but are you analyzing them properly? Because if you do not analyze these marks properly, there is no point of giving blindly giving marks and getting a score. It's important to analyze what went wrong. As wait, let me show you that particular slide again in the PPT, and you go through the slide. If there are any questions, please let me know with respect to that. Wait. So, yes, please have a look at this, and until then, I'll move on to the subsequent questions. Okay, Zoom is. Hello. So, yes, give me a minute. I'll just share my screen. I need host rights. Hello, Vanshika. Can you please give me host rights? Zoom is very non-cooperative. Vanshika, are you there? Not working out. Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
how
God.
do you give someone the host rights?
Just go to participants and just go over the three dots on my name, and just there'll be three dots there. Just give
Okay.
host. There.
One second. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. So yes, and I'll show those slides again. So until then, I can't see the chats. The chats have been erased. So please switch on your mics and ask. Please raise your hands if you want to ask questions. Sharanya. Sorry, Sharanya.
Yes, sir. So usually I read the Hindu, but I've noticed in a lot of mocks we have articles from the Indian Express and Economic Times. So do we need to cover all of them?
In what sections do these mocks come up?
In
Do these
English
passages
and
come up?
in English and GK.
Okay. See, that frankly, I don't think that really matters because again, these are mocks from a coaching institute, and CLAT will obviously not give you such very obvious sources, such very obvious sources. They'll either pick a passage from Indian Express, which is very, very old, or they won't give you an article which they think the student must have read already. And in my opinion, I think Hindu is a good source for GK as well as reading. So I would not suggest you to let go of Hindu. Additionally, see, I used to read two newspapers. I had Times of India and Hindu. So I would read Times and I would read Hindu. While most of the newspaper articles would be the same, there were some things that some concepts or some news items that would be exclusively covered by one or the other. So it's really up to you. But frankly, I would suggest not to to leave Hindu and go to another newspaper such as Indian Express or Economic Times. And moreover, Economic Times is something that, at least when I read it, was exclusively for economics. There were very few actual current affairs related topics that I could find. And in that sense, what your coaching institute might be trying to do by giving you Economic Times passages is that it is trying to prepare you for various types of passages you can expect in CLAT, because it's a common problem for many CLAT aspirants that they are unable to understand economics passages or economic concepts. So to summarize, you don't need to leave Hindu if you want. If you have the time and if you're willing to do it, you can maybe take up an additional newspaper. But again, that is something, if you can do, you should do only if you want, if you're able to do it, if you have the time to do it and you're willing to do it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Moving on. Payal?
Yes, Bhaiya. I score good in logical, like 17, 18, but bad in English, like 10, 12. So what should I do?
See, English and logical are generally related. So your English score should be somewhat similar to logical. One thing could be the difficulty level of the mocks. If that's there, then focus on the concepts again. But do you think, okay, so tell me a sequence. What do you solve a particular section first and one at the last?
First is legal, then quant, then logical, GK, and English.
And you're scoring you're scoring lowest in English, you're saying.
Yes.
So in that case, for the next mock, try next two mocks, maybe only two, try switching English and logical and see if the score persists. If your scores in English are still low and your scores in logical are high, despite the switch, it means that there is a conceptual issue with English. In that case, you have to do a question by question analysis. Go for maybe speak to your mentors regarding this, regarding concepts which need to be cleared, or speak to your teacher regarding this, speak to peers. But if if after switching logic and English, you're scoring low in English and high its logic, it's probably because of fatigue. Again, if it's fatigue, then that's something you can keep giving more. You can increase the frequency of mocks. That's something that should set right by itself. It's set right for me. So that's something I'll suggest to you too. Give more. If the problem is fatigue, give more mocks and train your mind to sit for 2 hours consistently. Like if you're even preparing separately for like obviously apart from mocks, you'll be preparing separately. There's a separate set of preparation you'll do. Sit for 2 hours straight, continue that 2 hours straight. Or if it's lesser than 2 hours, build up that sort of build it step by step until you reach 2 hours. So as I said, the thing to treating an issue is to first identify the issue. So do this for the next 2 mocks, switch logical in English, and then we'll get a better idea as to what the problem is. Is it because of fatigue or is it because of concepts? I
Bhaiya,
hope that answers your question.
in this slide you have written potential score versus actual score. So when I do the potential score, my potential score are in 60s, but my actual score comes in 40s. So how to fill up
Actual
that gap
score.
in just a week?
You mean your potential score comes in 60s and your actual score is 40s. So in that sense, see, if there's such a gap between your potential score and your actual score, it means that at least 20 marks you're losing it out on silly mistakes and missed questions because you did not have time. So what I would suggest is manage your time better. Do not leave any questions because you did not have time, and ensure that you do not leave any questions because you do not have time. So don't spend too much time for any single question, because ideally it should be like a minute per question, maybe a little more, because GK is one section everybody just keeps sticking and going on. There's no reading the passage. So in that sense, focus on if there's a gap between your potential score and actual score, focus on time management and focus on not making silly mistakes, which means pay more attention to what you do. Take maybe 2-3 seconds extra and think before you do the little circle on the OMR. So hope that answers your question.
Bhaiya,
Okay.
if I want to take mentorship program, like what will
I'll have to stop you for a couple of minutes because there are others who want to ask. I'll keep you towards the end. So, I mean, after taking out 2-3 more questions, I will take your question as well. But you've already asked twice, so I'll ask a couple of 2 others and get back to you. Okay. Keshvi, you there?
Yes, sir. Which other coaching institutes mock should be preferred, obviously apart from NLTA, according to difficulty level?
See, difficulty level, at least when I was giving CLAT, Legal Edge had the most difficult legal sections. Career Launcher had the hardest logical sections, and Law Prep Tutorial had the decent ones. Like it was a more well-rounded compared to LE and CL. So these are the ones I used, and these are the ones I'm familiar with. These are the ones I would suggest to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Adya?
Yes, hello Bhaiya. Like my problem is I'm constantly getting marks in 70s. Like I'm deeply analyzing mocks, but I am not moving out of this stalemate. So like, what do I do?
Okay, Zoom is being very non-cooperative. So who was speaking? Was it Adya?
Yes.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, so the problem is I'm constantly getting marks in 70s and I am not able to move out of this zone. I've been constantly analyzing mocks like deeply, but I don't know what to do. I'm stuck.
So see, if you're analyzing mocks well and you're doing all whatever analysis methods are suggested, and you're still unable to get past, then speak to a mentor, speak to whoever and are you a mentor are you a student at an LTI?
No, not yet.
Okay, then whoever your mentor is at whichever institute, speak to the teachers there or any sort of mentor there. And because in that sense, you do need a certain clarity with respect to this, because I'm assuming that you're doing whatever analysis I've been emphasizing on for the past 1.5 hours. So if it's still not helping, please speak to your mentors and please you can I'll maybe give my contact details later toward the end of this message at the end of the session, and you can reach out to you can seek mentorship from someone in that case, because this is something that needs to be probably something that needs to be looked at with a different perspective. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Vidhi, are you there?
Yes. So my question was, so actually my preparation itself was started like a little late. I started my prep 6-7 months ago, and my score kept on increasing, and I got to 81 at one point. But afterwards, when I kept on doing mock, the score wasn't constant, and I sometimes get 81, sometimes get 75. It even drops down to 45. I'm not sure if I'm improving and what's going wrong, and I'm also analyzing my mocks constantly.
So, okay, that's a problem even I faced. So, do you have access to percentiles or a rank in your coaching institute
Yes.
wherever you attend mocks? So, how has your rank been? Has your rank been fluctuating similarly,
I
or
think the
is that
highest rank I got was 91 percentile.
no,
And
no,
when I
not
got
about the
like
ranks, not highest and lowest. Overall, is the rank that you say there are 10 mocks where the score was up and down. Are the percentiles similar, or are the percentiles also fluctuating proportionally?
percentiles are also fluctuating, like 20 to 25%. It goes up and down.
Okay, so that probably means that there is some issue with respect to, particularly with the, matlab, every mock you're having a different problem. So that
Yes.
again, the analyze every mock, and similarly what I suggested to one person, I don't really remember the name, but writing down after every mock what went wrong, what solution you are having to this problem, what solution someone is giving to this problem, and revising those maybe 10 minutes before the exam starts. So, and keep it in mind while you give the mock. So, because if the percentiles and all are fluctuating with every mock, that means every mock you are probably, again, this is only conjectural, it is something that flows logically. I haven't seen your mock, so I don't know, but it's probably that you are making you're giving different it's basically that you're making different problems in different sections of the mock, different sections of different mocks. So in that sense, analyze, just write down, revise, and apply that before the next exam. Apply that during the next exam.
Okay, so just analyze mocks better and then note down the problems.
Yes. Note down the problems, and note down the problems as well as the solutions, what you're planning to do different. Because if you just identify the problem and you just, internalize the solution, there's a very there's a very possible chance that you will forget it while applying the next mock, because, mock pressure and all, it's very common. So in that sense, writing down would help you, is in my opinion. It's my opinion.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
No problem. I think Payal had a follow-up. We'll take that now. Payal, are you there?
If I want your mentorship program, what will include in that?
I am currently not a mentor at NLTI, so I'm not really sure about what the intricacies of the mentorship program are. However, I can share a link at the end of the chat and just show you, and that will take you to NLTI's webpage, or you can just type nlti@clat.com, because I'm currently not a mentor at NLTI yet. I'm a content creator, so I'm not really aware of what the intricacies of different pricing plans are.
Okay, bhaiya.
Any other questions? Anybody? Abhay. Confused. Before I used to get, I've got a lot of messages. Fine. Confused about what to do. Before I used to get 60 to 70, but I had to stop due to a month for some reason, falling back to 50s and doing a mock every day from 5 institutes, including NLTI. You're doing a mock every day, Abhay, but are you analyzing them? Because because mocks are incomplete without analysis, without analyzing the mistakes that you made, without analyzing whether your time management was good, and without identifying and having a solution to these issues, it is not possible to address, it is not possible to clear it is not possible to improve. Basically, you're basically giving the same mock again and again without any clarity about where you went wrong and how you should improve. So yes, analysis is key. Keep analyzing your mocks. I hope that answers. Is Abhay, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ansh, are you there? Okay, 1 minute back. So I gave CLAT and currently in CNLU. I wanted to give one more shot for tier one and start my preparation. Could you please tell me how can I improve upon myself? See, Ansh, I think it's very brave that you're giving a second attempt. I truly support it because even I was a dropper. I remember even my first attempt, I got CNLU and I took a full drop here. And I want to give one more shot for tier one in LU and I have started my preparation. Can you please suggest an approach or guide me how I can improve myself? So see, in you want a tier one in LU, but it's again, as I said, if circumstances make you continue in CNLU, I won't suggest like, okay, forget whatever your trimester is and just focus on whatever's on the subject on CLAT. Forget about CNL. I won't suggest that because also and done, you might have to go. There's always a chance you'll have to continue in CNLU. Any person who's giving CLAT would attempt that. So in that sense, you need to considering that only CLAT is 2 months away. You need to devote a majority of the time to CLAT so that you can prepare. You can have a decent shot at getting a tier one NLU. If you started your preparation 2 weeks ago, that means, have you been doing, okay. So obviously GK is something you will still have to cover. So for that, refer to NLTI's GK booster booklet for revision. That's a standard. You can check out CL's Manthans, brush through them for good current affairs concepts. That again would be helpful. With respect to reasoning, so since you've already given CLAT once, you must have a fairly good idea of the concepts related to CLAT, related to the reasoning section. So your concept should be pretty good. So this is what I would suggest. Focus on GK, the GK booster booklet. Newspapers, do not neglect newspapers. Make a consistent habit of GK. Basically, GK should be as natural to you as eating or say sleeping. I mean, yeah, nobody sleeps in law school. I'm sure you understand. So maybe eating. Nobody uses, never mind. So yeah, GK is something that you should do as part of your daily routine. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Anushka, not getting good marks in mocks, having pre-boards. Tell me how you can manage this two at a time. So see, as I see, pre-boards are giving pre-boards compulsory for you. Anushka, are you there? Okay, compulsory. So in that sense, at this stage, I would strongly suggest that you focus on CLAT. You're saying keep pre-boards are compulsory. So this may or may not work, but maybe you can ask your parents to speak to the principal or maybe to the to whoever the relevant authorities with respect to this, if they can grant you a leave. Because to be honest, balancing pre-boards and CLAT is not easy at all. And if you have to balance it, just ensure that you're getting the bare minimum amount or whatever decent score you consider in pre-boards and focus the rest of the time on CLAT. Because see, all said and done, pre-boards will not affect your board marks at the end. At the end, it's all whatever you study for the boards. So if just ensure that you do the bare minimum, whatever's required to perform to get a decent score in pre-board, and focus for the rest of time on CLAT. And that only, but one thing, as I said, do this if the principal still emphasizes that, okay, no, whatever happens, even if the world ends, you need to come and give pre-board to your parents. So I would suggest, say, go talk with the principal along with your parents to grant you an exemption. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. I hope that answers your question. Devraj Sin, how can we push our scores beyond 105 or more? I can get around 100, but can't breach the limit. Okay, 100 is good. Keep that up. Beyond 105 or more. See, if you're scoring 100 and you want to get higher than 100, you will be having very limited number of mistakes. So it could either be, your number of mistakes could be either very limited. So it could either be that you're repeating the same mistakes again and again. And if you're leaving questions, it could be that I'm saying you're repeating the same type of mistakes again and again. The other case could be you're not solving enough number of questions. If you're repeating the same type of mistakes again and again, again, analyze those mocks and write down whatever mistakes you're making, write down possible solutions and apply them for the next mock. I don't see why that should help. So if you've got any more specific issue, if you've done all this and you've got more specific issues that you're unable to find a solution to, please speak to your mentor or me regarding this. So I hope that answers your question. Also, I will be, okay, I attempt all, but I guess I'll analyze again. Yes, attempting all is good. Just ensure that you analyze all the mistakes that you make. And if you're repeating the same number of mistakes, find solutions to it. If you're unable to find solutions to it, speak to the mentors. So yeah, and also I will be closing this in 5 minutes. So yeah, at 8:30. It's been on. There's one more question. Two more questions. How can I get good score in legal and logic? So for legal reasoning, see, it's very difficult for me to give it's a very general question. How can I get a good score? What I would just, if you give me a specific issue that you're facing in legal or logic, I can suggest a sort of solution to that. But for this, all I can say is focus on good score in legal and logic. Focus on not making silly mistakes. Focus on ensuring that your concepts are good. And if your concepts are not good, that's completely okay. You can just get done with the concepts, especially in logic, as fast as you can, and ensure that you're attempting attempting as in this particular sense. When I say attempt, it means you're able to understand, read, and analyze each and every question during the exam. And do not leave questions because you did not have enough time. Leave questions because you read them. If that's the only alternative, leave questions only because you do not know the answer or you're unsure about the answer. So yeah, and avoid silly mistakes. I hope that answers your question. Moving on to Sharanya. Is there a way to get better with two choice problem? Like I'm always getting stuck between two choices in mocks. So see, this two choice, that's kind of a thing that's there with many students, the two choice thing. The consortium intentionally does that to eliminate, eliminate the competition, make the competition lesser, basically. So with respect to that, it could either be that you are missing a sort of tiny nuance that's given in the passage, and because of that, you're unable to select the correct option, or it is just because you're just unable to find a difference between the two options. So when it comes to this two choice issue, find out what you can eliminate, what is wrong with the issue. Don't pick the correct option. Find out what the wrong option is. Read it critically and find out anything that would make this particular option incorrect. If you find something that's the wrong option, choose the other one. If you do not find anything and you find something in the other option, eliminate that one and choose this one. So try the elimination. I'm sure you must be familiar with the elimination strategy. Even then, if you find two completely identical options, you can speak to your peers or your mentors. They should suggest a solution to this, because then it becomes a very specific issue. That it's an issue with the question, not a general two choice problem. So that's what I would suggest. I hope that answers your question. And we can take maybe one more question if anybody has. After that, I will be closing the meeting. Were you a student of NLTI Super 30? No, I wasn't a student of NLTI Super 30. Respect to legal section, I always get 5 questions wrong. At least any suggestions? So again, analyze what questions you're getting wrong, Adya. Analyze why it is going wrong. If it is silly mistakes, pay more attention. If it is a conceptual issue and you're unable to understand why a particular option was, if it's more like a conceptual issue, like you didn't understand this particular aspect of the passage, take it up with peers, take it up with mentors. And if it's a problem with respect to, say, time, like if you just rushed with all the options and treat them correctly, that's again a problem of time management. So first, identify why you're getting these questions wrong, analyze them, and based on these, and based on, see, as I said, the treatment to an issue is to first identify it, the first step of treatment. So first, identify why you're getting these questions wrong, and if you're unable to find solutions, talk to peers or mentors, because I mean that's what mentors are there for, right? To give you solutions to your issues. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, last two questions. Sanjana and Pratyush. So Pratyush, source to practice logical reasoning. I would suggest mocks are the best source for logical reasoning. Those are the best you can get for logical reasoning. And apart from that, for questions, that's the best source. Logical reasoning. If you want to practice reading, as I said, newspapers, you can go for Eon, you can go for basically any reading material that you can find on Eon, Psychology Today, The Mint, Times of India, Indian Express. So if you want to practice reading, newspapers, editorials, op-eds, and Eon, other articles, etc., publications. With respect to questions, it is mocks. Okay, Sanjana. Used to cover quant sections later, but when I'm scoring good in other section, I didn't get the time for quants. Used to cover quants. Actually, I used to cover quant section later, but when I'm scoring good in other section, I didn't get the time for quant. So that's again an issue with time management. If you're spending too much time in a particular section, that means you need to manage your time better. In that case, if you should not spend ideally more than a minute per question, but you're allowed a couple of seconds leeway because the number of questions has been reduced. So yes, time management is key. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, that's all. I'll just give a list. I think everybody seems to have problems with respect to sources. I'll just give a couple of sources with respect to reading material. Or I sent it on a personal message. Apologies. So yes, that's all I'll be taking for today. Thank you everyone for attending. I hope this session has been helpful for you.